also from the city councilors Murphy and McGivern, as far as I can tell. And I believe we've got some special guests with us, and I'll let the chairman of the HRA introduce that side of the city government. Go ahead, Jay.
Thank you. I'm just putting up my volume. I just want to call the meeting of the Holyoke Redevelopment Authority to order at 6:34, October 5th. The meeting is being held remotely per Governor Baker's executive order, and the meeting is being recorded and televised, Dave, right? Or
I think so.
Televised, okay, thank you. I'll take a roll call for our committee. Mrs. Duffy?
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Crean? Is Tom here?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you. Gladys Fabron Martinez? Gladys here. Mr. Carl Eager?
Present.
Thank you. And John Willihan, I'm here. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Is Marcos here?
He's here. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll turn it over back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Jay. Okay, one Mr. Chairman to the other. Okay, very good. All right, so Councilor Tom has joined us. I don't know if Gladys is trying to log in or what, but we'll just have to wait and see how that cookie crumbles. Okay. So if I can just get a motion to take agenda item 2 off the table and reopen the public hearing, please.
Motion to take item 2 off the table and open a public hearing.
Motion made second to take the agenda item 2 off the table. Under discussion, hearing none on the motion. All in favor? Aye. Agenda item 2 is the city council accept the amendments to the HRA urban renewal plan. The city council also authorized the HRA to approve minor non-substantial language changes to the urban renewal plan amendments if such changes are recommended by the Department of Housing and Community Development, such as clarification of actions mentioned throughout the plan, defining of terms and amending grammar. So this was continued from our September 3rd meeting, I believe. And let's see, do we have members of the public here? I don't. Ryan, are you with me? Ryan? Okay, I don't hear Ryan, but I'm assuming he's here somewhere. So we're just gonna have to figure this out, whether or not there's somebody from the public, because if we recall last time, you know, we had some questions, we had some.
Dave, I am here, just so you know.
Okay, Ryan.
His dog.
Yeah, Ryan, so are we, do we have any property owners here as we did last time?
Edward Owen. Edward Owen is here.
Okay. Oh, hi, Mr. Owen. Okay, we see it from last time. Okay, so we are in a public hearing. I think the best course of action at this point is to hear from the department head and find. I know that the HRA board. I had a chance to speak with the chairman this afternoon, ever so briefly, and but why don't you tell us what's happened, Marcus, between then and now?
Sure. So, do you want to recap the presentation, Chair, or just actions that we've taken since the public hearing?
And anything relative to this between that happened between September 3rd and October 5th, I guess, if you wanted to summarize what you heard some feedback from the property owners, and I think that's where we left it. You tell me. I believe we were going to get some more feedback, or you were going to give us some more feedback after you heard from the property owners in the last DGR. So where are we at this point? And if anywhere, unless we're in the same place, but let me know and we'll go from there.
Sure, no problem. Just trying to make sure I get the marching orders right. So since it's September 3rd, we've elicited feedback. We got some feedback that that councilors want to understand the breakdown better of the categorization of properties in terms of what's vacant, what's land, and you know what's a building occupied. We just sent a summary in that regard about just over half of the properties of the total 80 parcels. 47 of them are privately owned. Of the privately owned ones, 3/4 of them are either unimproved land, or improved land, something that's asphalted as a parking lot, for example, or a vacant building. The other quarter is a building that is somehow, and the reason those are included vary. Some of them are being included because they're of historic value, and we are anticipating any problems that may arise in the future where the public sector may be called to try to help and preserve the building, or proactively help current ownership garner resources to preserve the building. Some property that is currently for auto uses, environmental conditions that limit its reuse as others. That kind of situation. So we needed a breakdown in that regard. I had a conversation with property owners that have reached out or communication, public hearing or public hearing on what this means, doesn't mean. But that's been few and far between. We haven't gotten that many requests. And John, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe not more than 5 property owners or 6. So the HRA board met
About that, yep.
at the end of September to consider any feedback that's been provided. And at this point, the proposal hasn't changed based off of any of the feedback that's we haven't gotten requests, for example, from counselors specifically to take any property off. So that's where we are. I think Jay or any board member, of course, feel free to correct me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Marcos, very much. And I see one hand up, not a committee member, but let me just, okay, do any committee members want to address any points right this second? No one raised their hand. Councilor McGivern.
Just a question, Mr. Chairman, to the director, to Marcos Alvarado. Marcos, you said you reached out to these property owners. How did you reach out?
Every property owner was contacted twice. Once when I should say at least twice in writing. First, when the property was added to the plan, and as the plan was being made public, we wrote them in making sure that they knew that this was happening. This is exactly the same thing we did in 2012. We wanted them to hear from us directly. We sent them a second mailing for them to know when the public hearing was scheduled, so they also had the opportunity to join the public hearing over the Zoom, so they had the login information as well. Several property owners were also contacted ahead of time over the phone, so that they also had a personal touch and could have a conversation that way. And then others were also followed up on if they had questions either at the public hearing or during phone conversations or if they emailed us, that kind of thing. So at least twice, but we've had more conversations than that.
Excuse me for 1 minute. How did you put your hand up?
Hold.
If the property was being rented by a business owner and in use, did you reach out to the business owners also?
We wouldn't necessarily have a list of all the tenants in a property. So no, we didn't make an attempt at creating that universe because we wouldn't have that information.
because I think that's important, but thank you.
I
Okay,
hate to interrupt, but I don't know how to put the hand up.
Mr. Owen?
Yeah, I don't know how to put the hand up, and I apologize, but
No, Mr. Owen, so that's okay. There's a little blue button, but I'll tell you what, you'll get a chance in a minute, okay?
okay, sir. Thank
So
you.
hang back.
All right.
Okay. All right. Okay. I don't see any people on the committee members of the committee want to say anything. I heard from one counselor who's at large want to say something. Any members of the HRA board want to weigh in at this point? I don't see any members raising their hands. Okay. So we are in a public hearing. Okay. So let's just review the rules real fast. They haven't wavered since the last time. So what we're gonna do for members of the public, and right now I think it's just you, Mr. Owen, at this point, but anybody else for any other public hearing, what we do is we only direct our comments to the chair or through the chair, and then we keep our comments to a minute or two. I mean, it shouldn't be like a big long speech. So hopefully it'll be a comment or a question, and then if we want to get some feedback, then you can just say through the chair to the department head or to a board member or whatever, and then they'll proceed. So I just want to keep it in orderly fashion. Oh, okay. And the last thing is we're just gonna, we're just gonna use titles and things like that. We're not gonna use any kind of terminology shouldn't be used. Okay. I didn't think we would in this group here, but it has happened in the past, and that doesn't make for a good meeting. Okay, so we're in public. So Mr. Owen, I know you had your hand up. Mr. Owen, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. The first thing I wanted to say was that on the September 3rd meeting, it was tabled. The issue was tabled so that I believe counselors or whoever could reach out to the property owners. Am I correct about that?
Certainly, that was one of the topics was brought up. I for one reached out to the department head and to the property owners, but go ahead.
And no one else reached out to me either.
Okay.
Since September 3rd to now. So
point
I don't
taken.
know why my building's on this list. Right down the street from me, there's a big building where they just put in a pot shop. That building is almost all empty. Except my building is almost 80% full. And it has been 80% full. So to put it in a category of underused, maybe it's not what somebody wants me to put in that building, but it is still it has a purpose. It has the original purpose that was for the building when it was built. And that you can't change that. I mean, yeah, well, I guess you guys can, but whatever. I just don't, and for blight, my building's not blight. It's not blight at all. But nobody I don't understand how you guys are doing this. I understand that the building next door is being renovated after 20 years of blight, and never once was it recorded as blight. I don't get it. Why, can somebody please explain to me why my building is blight and the building that sat next to me for over 20 years vacant and broken windows and drug use and all kinds of stuff going on in there, it was never once named blight. Can somebody please explain that to me?
I got it, Mr. Owen. So Marcos, you heard what Mr. Owen had to say, or the chair of the HRA or the HRA members who've reviewed this exhaustively. I think if I understand Mr. Owen's concern here, he's just questioning in general why he's in this. Why don't you, Mark? I think you went over it before, but why don't you, just for those of us that are new, why don't you tell us why Mr. Owen's building is in here? Is his building considered blight? And tell me the pros and cons, if you would, please.
Sure, and I would say at this point it may just be a difference of criteria, and reasonable people can disagree. Mr. Owen and myself have a long-standing relationship back since 2012, and we have spoken often during times that we've done planning with a renewal plan. even when we don't necessarily agree. And I appreciate Mr. Owens' candor always, and we've even met on site very recently a few weeks ago. The reasoning behind adding that building is, as many of you know, the Lyman Terrace neighborhood has undergone a transformative redevelopment over the last several years, centered around the Lyman Terrace housing project itself, but also undergoing some significant public right-of-way improvements to the entire neighborhood, and connecting it in a much better way to Upper High Street, attracting investment there, connecting it to the Heritage State Park, and the businesses that are, as Mr. Owen says, down the road, that there are some new investments, including in cannabis. One of the buildings that have been in longstanding bad shape is also undergoing a rehabilitation now for new office space. And so that corridor, we're looking to be able to support its completion in reuse. This building in particular, like the two buildings making it, were built as industrial buildings. This one isn't, wouldn't be considered a mill per se, as it's not of that size. It was an industrial building abutting a rail line. As most of you probably remember, the city acquired the rail line to add it to the right of way to have street frontage for those properties.
I can't tell.
Almost certainly not going to kill you.
And so, sorry, I missed my train of thought. And so we're looking to support development that's complementary to the neighborhood. That those buildings there are no longer zone industrial, zoned downtown business. It's the type of businesses that would have more office space, storefronts, what have you, that interact in a better way with a residential neighborhood, with a pedestrian neighborhood, and an industrial neighborhood. And so putting it on the plan is a way that would allow the public sector with the tools to aid in that. And it's not necessarily through acquisition. I think understandably, a lot of Mr. Owen's concerns and comments have revolved around the public sector acquiring the building. That's not, it's not our main tool. I mean, it's one of the things that we can exercise, but for obvious reasons, it is costly. It's not the first thing that we do. What I would point out to is that the history of the renewal plan and implementation over the last 7 years shows that it can actually help owners by calling attention to the building with other partners, with grant programs. It shows that this is a priority for the city to have it rehabilitated. So I guess that's what I would say. It's incongruent with the long-term plans of the city, even before the renewal plan, as demonstrated by zoning, and further investment in rehabilitation of the building would complete the transformation of it.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Graney.
Just a question through the chair. I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but could we ask how much Mr. Owens has paid in taxes over the last 20 years as a business owner in Holyoke, and how much the surrounding properties have paid in taxes? Because I think there's some kind of a misconception here. If we have a long-term taxpayer to the city of Holyoke, I think we ought to accommodate him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Councilor Graney. Yeah, your question could be answered. Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, Marcos, could you explain a little more? I don't understand. You keep saying that there's investments or enhancements and other tools available. What are we talking about here?
So there are different programs through Mass Development or EOHED. There have been co-working grants, site readiness grants, brownfield loan programs or grants, things that are competitive, that if you can point to, the more that you can point out to make your case that a particular property or corridor is of a priority, the more competitive it becomes. So having a property on the renewal plan when you're going for state grants is attractive. this is also a corridor that's in what's called the opportunity zones, a program created by the 2017 federal tax overhaul, and it brings investments interest in the corridor. So again, people usually come in and say, what is a priority in the city, and you can tell that, you can point them to priority locations, and whether it's acquiring it or it's co-investing with a current owner, it's a way of pointing to priority properties. So whether it's private or publicly funded, it's a clear sign of this is where we want investment to go. And what I think is unfortunate is that sometimes, and I don't.
Right.
I don't know how else to explain it. It's not necessarily a situation where we're trying to take something away. I mean, legally, we have to. What we're doing is we're adding something for an acquisition list, but the way we've used it, and the way that it's seen by the investment community is, what are your priorities? And I can't pick winners. I can't tell someone to invest here or there, but I can clearly point them to the seminal document of redevelopment in the city, saying, well, these are properties that we think that are important to get rehabilitated, and it has worked. I mean, we have situations in which property owners have competed for grants and won, saying this is an important property for the city of Holyoke.
All right, so here's my issue with that. So we're talking about right now a property. What kind of grant money or what kind of enhancement, or would that be used just to acquire by taking in public domain a business away from someone that's been there a long time, or doing some facade work at no cost to the owner to improve the appearance of the building? What specifically would the funds be used for?
So I'm giving you a list of possibilities, right? Which is the first question. What type of possibilities could be in there? So I can't answer specifically how funds will be used on a whole list of possibilities. I would tell you that if it is, for example, I'll give you an example of that actually happened. A property on Ray Street that applied for a very competitive co-working grant, and it allowed them to use it for an elevator because their co-working space was going to be on a top floor. So that wasn't for a facade, that was for an elevator that cost $250,000. That was out of their reach financially.
I get, I'm sorry to interrupt, Marcos. I get that part, but what if the owner doesn't need an elevator? He doesn't need any work. The building's serving his business fine. He doesn't need to take out a loan, add additional overhead, anything.
Well, look, what I would say is that what the plan is trying to do is complete the neighborhood and have more investment in that building, so that it is a better part of that corridor. And if the council disagrees with that, then that's fine. I mean, that's what the proposal is. It's to improve the conditions on the corridor. The building is more akin and looks and functions more like an industrial building in a residential and downtown business corridor. So it is a use that is out of lockstep with where the neighborhood is going. And so if there's disagreement on that, that's fine, but that's what the proposal is for.
Yeah, I'm good for right now, David.
Okay, Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So let me just make sure I understand this, Marco. So if we were to take 120 Front Street off this list, which I would think is what I'm hearing from Mr. Owen, and I'm assuming other property, if we were so desiring, other properties that may want to take off this list, what does that do in terms of the urban renewal plan other than taking a few properties off?
So yeah, I mean, if there's an interest to take properties off, I think the HR and Jay, not to speak for the board, but I guess I'm a little bit expected to hear, or at least summarize the feeling of the board. If there's feedback for that, I think the board is anxious to hear that, and so that they can consider it and take it out where they would agree it would make sense, and modify that proposal, or not, and then just take the risk on, on the council voting it up or down. I would say respectfully, maybe there's a little bit of color commentary on my end, but I will say, as someone who's been working on implementation, I think one of the most powerful things of this document, as I said, a seminal document in economic development, is it was approved unanimously last time around. And so, you know, I don't think anyone's looking here to have a fight. I think we're trying to make the best document possible. We're trying to get ahead of what we sincerely and honestly believe are going to be the needs of the city and of these corridors for the years ahead. If there's a disagreement on that, you know, the board is more than happy to consider those things. There is the possibility, to answer directly what you're asking, Councilor Murphy, to take things off of this. I can't speak to that specifically. It has to be the board to consider and take it off.
Okay.
Can I say
We wanna
something?
Mr. Owens?
Yes.
No. What you just raise your hand and I'll recognize you, okay?
No, sir. Sir, I can't figure out how to raise my hand.
Mr. Owens, just physically raise your own hand. See what I'm doing? See that?
I'm sorry. Okay.
So it's kind of like that, you know?
All right.
Or like that. I got it. But I got that you want to speak, so I took a note, so stand by.
Thank you, sir.
Councilor Murphy.
So Marcos, let me ask one other. So whatever final plan gets approved, if on any of these properties that we were going to do something, we still have to go through a formal process, a legal process to get any of this done. Am I correct? We are not authorizing these specific activities, or are we?
Yes, you would be authorizing the specific activities listed there as they were approved in 2012. So it's delegating those functions to the HRA as they were in 2012, which is partially why in the presentation we pointed to how the HRA has exercised that delegated power and what results it's reached. In practice, sometimes or many times, I can't tell you statistically, but many times the HRA and OPED staff has come back to City Council because parts of the project of what we're trying to do may still require City Council approval for other reasons, right? Like if it involves a tax credit or something like that, obviously that's still within the city's purview. But the power of acquiring real estate then would be transferred onto the HRA.
Okay, and is the Armory included in this?
The Armory was included in the 2012 version of the plan.
Okay, and are the 3 plans that were laid out at our previous meeting, are those still the plans at the Armory? There was the $625,000 to restore, to get it stable.
So those aren't plans on what we're trying to do. That was a more properly, that is a looking at scenarios of what could be done with the Armory based off of an engineering study that we partnered with Mass Development. They paid the engineer, they provided us free technical assistance. And so we wanted to see, okay, what are order of magnitude costs and uses for likely reuses at a site like that if we were to save the Armory building. So the document that we presented to you wasn't, this is definitively what we're doing. It is trying to answer the question, well, if we are going to save what's left of the Armory, what would be a likely use and what would that cost? So that's separate from the renewal plan.
Okay, so one last question related to the Armory. And so if the City Council came to the conclusion that, you know, we've waited 15, 20 years and we've seen the potential expenses to try to do something at the Armory, and we thought that demolishing and maybe building some homes or whatever on those corner lots, that it would still be in the HRA's power, or not the City Council?
The City Council could do that right now because the Armory is owned by the city. Right now, it's not recorded under the HRA name, as I understand. Well, let's assume for a second, just for a better quality answer to the concern. Let's assume for a moment that the HRA did own the Armory right now. Arguably, you know, politics aside, or I don't want to say politics, but just like sense of camaraderie aside, right? The HRA, it is a municipal corporation separate from the city. but it is municipal, right? Like the HRA board understands that this is an instrument of the city. So I can't imagine an organization going as rogue as whatever. I mean, I think the point is people want to work together as much
Okay.
as possible. In practice, with the condition that the armory is in, the city can, just like it does with private land, have the survey board go out there, declare it a public nuisance, and knock it down, and then charge for it essentially because of public safety. And that may not be a stretch for that building. I mean, I'm not an engineer. I'm not going to make that
Yep.
that assumption. But you know, that this doesn't. The city is providing, delegating to the HRA. In no way is the HRA above the city.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'll reserve my comment on going rogue in a second. Counselor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a follow-up question on Councilor Murphy's question, but also I just want to clarify, Marcus, that I'm not debating or picking a fight or doing anything else but expressing a concern, as I did at the beginning of the first public hearing on this matter. What you propose to do, what the Redevelopment Authority proposes to do with a lot of these areas, is what Redevelopment Authority should be doing. The difference being, when the first plan was filed and this amended plan was filed, is the major big difference is property that is on this list that is occupied and in use. And before, the original plan had vacant property, unoccupied property, and property that was not in the condition of being used by a business owner or a property owner. And in some cases, that includes property that's rented by a commercial business. Other cases, it's property that the business, it's occupied, even though the business is out of order. That example would be Haberman Hardware. The rented property would be the parking lot for Francie's Tavern. This is my concern, is that, and once, if we adopt this amended plan with these properties on it, we give the Redevelopment Authority the right to go forward and use their eminent domain powers without coming back to the city. Now, for the city property, that's fine. You can put all the city property on the list because the city still owns the property. You still have to come to the city, you know. But with eminent domain powers, you can, without coming back to the city, you can take over this property. Of course, you'd be facing the liability of having to pay for the property, a possible court battle if there's use and the owner of the property objects to the eminent domain. You can't come to a compromise. And that's my concern. That's a concern I raised and I'm raising again this evening. It's not what you want to do. It's putting property on it that's occupied by people who are using it currently that worries me. We got an email from Ben Murphy this afternoon. I don't know if it's an amended list of property. I just been trying to go through it. I haven't had a chance, but it's, you know, if there's additional properties added to it, or if it's just a list.
It's just the cover page that has the breakdown that was asked.
Okay. There's some addresses missing. It says on a number of properties, the street, but not the number. Can we get those numbers?
Because some vacant land just doesn't have a number on the street. It has a map block parcel number, but it doesn't have an actual street address. That's why that happens.
I think if you look deep, everything has a street address, even if it's vacant. But I'll figure it out. Thank you.
Mr. Owen. No, Peter, I know, but Mr. Owen was before you.
Okay.
You gotta mute yourself, Mr. Owen.
Oh, thank you. What I want to say was this, is that I believe that my building has been a staple in Holyoke for over 100 years. And just 12 years ago, for the first time ever, my building was put on this list. It was removed from the list because I objected, and I object now. But what I want to know is, if the building that's being currently renovated 12 years ago, which wasn't being renovated then, was put on that same list. Marcos, I'm sorry, can somebody answer that?
Go ahead, Marcos.
I believe, Mr. Owen, you're referencing the die cut car building, and I don't think it was put on that list back then, no.
Thank you. The other thing I want to say was, why couldn't I get the grants that you're talking about to rehab that building? Why couldn't I qualify for them with the help of the community development? If the community development really cares about this property as much as I do, maybe we can figure out a way to get some grants to me so I can update my building. I just got estimates for windows for the front of the building, which is something we talked about. I'm waiting for the approval to put a handicap ramp in the front of the building, as you know, because we talked about that also. I have put my heart and soul and my money into this property, and I take care of this property. And it insults me for somebody to put it on a blighted list. That's
Marcos, I got the gist of it. Marcos, do you want to answer the question about the grants?
Sure. I mean, the grants are available for anyone to apply, and I'm happy to help Mr. Owen as we do with anyone. I think being on a priority list like the HRA gives a property owner a leg up, so that when we're doing a letter of support or talking with the state, we can speak to, this isn't Marcos's opinion or John's opinion or Ben's opinion. This is a seminal document of economic development for the city, and it shows the layers of support and approval from the mayor, from the council's body politic. So that's one of the reasons why. That's not to say if it's not on the list, we wouldn't help him, and we'd be happy to help him as we're trying to help him navigate through his permitting process for his ramp. So it's not one or the other. I would also say, just in reference to the prior edition of his property, it predates me. And so I just want to make sure that's clear. This isn't something that, like, Marcos has something with this property. It was taken off in 2012, in part because the corridor, it wasn't, we didn't see it as a priority in the corridor for the immediate years to come. There was a lot of other things that had to happen at that point, namely Lyman Terrace. And so having a protracted discussion over the property in light of the rest of the neighborhood still needing other work, we didn't feel was the most productive thing. So ultimately, I think that's why the board decided to take it off. We're revisiting it now because the neighborhood is different than it was 8 years ago. And so it's the proposal. And if there's disagreement on that, I think the board values having some level of consensus around these things, and we welcome that feedback.
Mr. Owen?
I believe, with all due respect to you, Marcos, John, and all you counselors, if you allow my building to be put on this list, they will take my building from me.
All right, thank you, Mr. Owen. Councilor Tallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Marcos, for explaining what's going on here with this. I'm sorry I've been away. I've been trying to play catch up a little bit. I've missed the last couple of meetings, some family issues. I just got the email today from Ben and you, I believe, about the properties. And hearing Mr. Owen, my concern is possibly other, I know this has been going on for years, and the work that the HRA has been doing, the Redevelopment Authority, but is there other property owners that are occupied buildings that sort of are having issues that you've contacted?
There are occupied buildings, folks who have contacted us. I would categorize Mr. Owen's concern as the height of the concern. No one else has strongly pushed back on us, except maybe with the exception of Mr. David White, who owns the old train station, the Richardson's train station.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, and I highlight the old train station because there are other properties like that. Not that its ownership have pushed back on us, but the reason for their inclusion is the same. We're not looking to acquire it. And in fact, we would love to not acquire it at all at any point. It is out of the concern that should something happen in the years to come, because these historic properties are, number one, so valuable to the community. Number two, usually in frail state, time is of the essence to act. And so we would worry that we would find ourselves, we the public, right, everyone, find ourselves in a situation where we want to help, we want to do something with, the church on Appleton Street, the Freemason Lodge, the Baptist Church right next to it, you know, the Richardson train station. And then we have to go through the bureaucratic process of amending the plan and then try to secure a developer. So it's, again, we're trying to anticipate the needs of the community over the next few years, which isn't an exact science, but you know, we're trying to do, that's what we're trying to do. And so that's why they're included. To Councilor McGivern's point earlier, you know, there is a high bar for acquisition, particularly when it's occupied. You know, when it's unoccupied, it's a high bar in and of itself in terms of acquisition and potential litigation. When it's occupied, then you have a federal and state responsibility for relocation. It's not like no one's looking over your shoulder, not just locally, but DHCD, the Department of Housing and Community Development, has to approve any and all of these transactions. So that costs money and time. So that's why redevelopment authorities, particularly nowadays, are very judicious with anything that they do. It's not easy and it's not cheap if they're going to do acquisitions.
Thank you. And in the long run, I mean, how long will the process be? The vote is tomorrow night, right? Possibly on this? If we
I mean, that's up to you as counselors. There's an open public hearing.
If we closed it, right?
I don't want to speculate on something that's your process. I would dare request maybe. I wouldn't be so brash to request that it close today. That's up to your comfort level. I think what would be useful for the purposes of the HRAs, if this is going to be continued, it would be great if this can come to vote before Thanksgiving. I do worry that once we get into the Thanksgiving holiday period, then it turns into a 2021 action item. And so we have some actions pending based off of this approval, particularly in South Holyoke, that we have a high priority need to kind of wrap up or move significantly by the end of the year. So if there's any feedback, if there's things, you know, burning things that councilors really want to see changed, I think we're all anxious to hear what that is and try to move this forward with as much consensus as we can.
Right. Yeah, I'm in no real hurry. I'd like to contact some of these people on the list that I just got today. And I understand that, you know, November, it might be a better time, but, you know, my concern is some of the people that are still in occupied buildings. And I understand the vacant lots and vacant buildings, a lot of the area down in South Holyoke that we have to move on. But, you know, I'm concerned for people like Mr. Owen that, you know, has a viable business and has a good percentage of that building rented out, to make sure that, you know, other counselors, like I said, I'm just trying to get back and to try to follow up with some of these people now, that other counselors can get some questions answered, and also to maybe contact some of the people on the redevelopment authorities to see, you know, what their direction is going for the city. And I understand, you know, Lyman Street, that area, the Lyman Terrace area, and I understand downtown South Holyoke that some of these stuff we have to move on, but I'm just a little bit skeptical that, you know, we're a little bit rushing this too much, and I just would like a little bit more time to talk to some people about some of these properties.
Thank you. Mr. Owen, just put your hand down. I'm not going to recognize you. I'm not going to recognize you yet, but you can just rest your shoulders and just relax and get a glass of water and mellow out. There's a couple of people ahead of you. So just while we're going to, before I recognize Counselor Sullivan, Counselor Talmadge, to drop your hand down if you would.
Okay.
Karen Whiting Marcos, she sent me an email prior to the September 3rd meeting, and she must be part of the Richard C. Whiting Conway Realty Trust of 111 Lyman Street. And her comments are they're 3 bullet points. I'll just read them. They're not terribly long. I'm not sure if you would understand it better than me, and I'll forward this to you, Marcos, as well. The area of the right-of-way is very busy with vehicular traffic that utilize the commercial businesses located at the site. That's bullet point 1. Bullet point 2, it would be a dangerous path for people on bicycles and pedestrians, especially children. And bullet point 3, if the right-of-way was for vehicles. There is no place to park other than the private property on either side of the right of way. So that's from Karen Whiting, and she is concerned about the inclusion of 111 Lyman Street on the urban renewal plan. So you can add to Mr. White and Mr. Owen the Whiting Conway Realty Trust. So I just want to get that in for the record. Councillor Sullivan is recognized.
Thanks. Again, to you, Marcos. I think one of the biggest hangups I'm having here is just the very title of this thing is it's proposed to be acquired. This whole list is proposed to be acquired. Is that just a poor choice of words, or is that really the goal here?
The an urban renewal plan is a well-regulated, created by law and by state regulation. And so there are specific things that we have to do when we're adding it to the plan. And when we're adding it to the plan, it is literally called a list of properties for acquisition. So that is the proposal is called for acquisition because when you approve these properties to be on the plan, it imbues the redevelopment authority with the power to acquire them. And so for whatever reason, probably the state wants to highlight that power. That's the process that we have to follow, and that's the words that we use. It is the regulatory language that we're using.
Okay, so if I understand that correctly, then, right? This would give you the power to acquire 195 Appleton Street from Spartan Nominee Realty Trust. Am I correct?
Correct. The HRA board could seek its acquisition in terms or by eminent domain.
And right now there's something going on with DEP also, and that is a contaminated property, a brownfield property, known carcinogenic materials in the soil. And we would add that to a list of properties that we could potentially acquire without council approval.
It is, it would allow the HRA certainly to acquire it. We know that there is an environmental condition there, and the HRA. I mean, I don't know to what extent the environmental condition is there, but it being a key property in the downtown, what it would allow us to is to then leverage other resources. There's a brownfield cleanup grant fund. Private parties can only get loans of up to $500,000 at 0%. Redevelopment authorities can get grants of up to $2 million, which is what we did for the Parsons paper site. So conceivably, we could get money from the state to do cleanup as well as acquisition. I don't think the HRA would be, and I mean, no board would be. I mean, how would you acquire something like that without knowing what you're going to do next in terms of environmental cleanup? Understand that this is authorization for it. Doesn't mean that the HRA goes out tomorrow and does it.
I understand that, and I've seen HRA already do things that the council was not in favor of, and now we'd be adding this to the list.
What has the HRA done that the council was in favor of?
Well, I don't want to spend a lot of time going over spilled milk, but I think there was some transfers that we were clearly against that resulted in the pocket park across from City Hall.
Yeah, that was not the HRA.
It wasn't.
No, that was the Housing Authority acting.
Okay, I stand corrected. Yep, HHA. But it's along the same vein. The same thing could happen here. That's all I have for now, David.
Thank you. Yeah, you don't have to answer that, Marco said. That was just going to be my reference about going rogue earlier. That was a housing authority going rogue with the backdoor $32,000 transfer that went in one way and back into Holyoke Housing Authority the other way. for the sole purpose of circumventing the Holyoke City Council. There's not much debate on that. That's rogue. So there is history of going rogue. Mr. Owen, you had your hand up again, please. You recognize, sir. You got on mute, Mr. Owen.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
You're unmuted,
I
so
don't
we
know.
can hear you.
I don't know if you can see behind me, but there are pictures on hanging up that I put of my building. I had these pictures done about 15 years ago, and this is my idea for my building. And I have slowly, yes, I agree, but I've been working on this project. First, I did a brand new roof on the building, including taking everything off of it and putting all new plywood. I've repointed the whole building so that my building doesn't start falling apart like some of the buildings, not only in Holyoke, but everywhere else. I have the windows on the driver's side are boarded up because there's 100-year-old glass in them, and I don't want them getting broken. So I put boards over them to keep them from getting broken. But I could remove them boards if that would make anybody happy. The windows in the front of the building are going to cost $4,000 a piece. All right, from Architectural Components. They're the ones who are going to be doing them windows. Now, if Marcos and I can work on something to help me to finance this, that would be awesome. But even if Marco doesn't, I'm going to try to get this done because I care about this building. This building should be in Holyoke. It's a staple. It's been here for over 100 years. And there's no reason in the world to take this building from me. I thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Yeah, Martha, I'm just going to ask you a quick couple of questions on my perspective, or any member of the HRA board. Is there a reason why we have the properties of the Roman Catholic Bishop of Springfield on here, and then as well as the Lawrence School? Why do we need those in the urban renewal plan?
And that's directed to me?
Anybody in the HRA board? It was, you all voted on it. So tell me what's your take on having the I take it that's a former perpetual help site. So why do I want to see that on here? And then just a follow up to that, where is the HHA relative since that school vote got eviscerated? I thought HHA wanted to step in and maybe build some homes on there. So where are we with that?
Sure. So I'll try to take these in order, and if I forget a portion, please remind me. So the Roman Catholic properties are it's the block where Mater Dolorosa used to stand. Now that Mater Dolorosa isn't there, it's one of the two completely vacant blocks in the city. So it presents a unique, or almost unique, right? There are two, so it's not entirely unique. One of two large-scale development opportunities without like redoing the right-of-way, right? Without changing it. So that's that site.
Well, I'm in the wrong area. Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, and then just to throw a curveball there. What if Monte Rosa was still standing? Would having it in the urban renewal plan, would that have affected anything, especially regarding demolition?
Well, it's hard to say because there's so many things that would have had to go into that decision.
I'm not going to hold you to it. I'm just curious because it's too late now, but I'm just curious.
No, it's a great question, and we are using it as precedent. So I think it's illustrative, right? If it had been in the urban renewal plan, what it would have allowed is for a more seamless way for, instead of having the city try to do a negotiation, which is councilors saw, we tried to negotiate the best we could. It wasn't on terms that were as acceptable to the city, so ultimately that failed. But the redevelopment authority, being a 121B corporation, they can negotiate for an acquisition, and before acquiring could also identify a developer. So basically not have the public sector be holding the property for a significant amount of time, and passing that on to a private owner, much easier than what we could have done with the city. if we look back at the deal that kind of fell short on the city end, we were taking on would have been taking on a significant risk because the city as a municipal corporation has to follow procurement law under 30B. That doesn't allow us to do a creative transaction, right? We can't buy and sell at the same time as a city. We can buy it and then we have to do a separate sale process. And so that represents a high risk to the city when there's a building that, you know, may be in bad condition. So that's how we would have probably sought to see if the HRA could have played a role there. And it is the model when we think of okay, other historic properties. If it's on the plan, it allows the HRA to be more nimble in that regard.
Got it. Thank you. And then the Lawrence School, what's the story with that now?
Yeah, Lawrence School, and kind of tied to your greater question on the perpetual help block right next door on the Housing Authority. You know, this was us thinking that whether it was with the new school or not, I'm certainly not privy to those discussions, and I'm sure you're all much more knowledgeable than
I'll believe I'm not.
That regardless of the construction of the school and where that ends up, it seemed from the discussion that there were pieces in motion where potentially the school department was looking to optimize their real estate and where they were locating kids. And so again, similar to other historic properties, it was, if this becomes a surplus site, we want to be able to make sure that it's something that we can quickly turn around and not have a long-term vacancy like what happened with Lynch School. Because as you all well know, in this committee and beyond, the more time passes that a building is vacant, the harder it is to identify someone that can quickly reuse it. Some conditions grandfather out in terms of the building code and stuff like that. So we just want to be well prepared. In terms of the perpetual help block question, where the Housing Authority is with it, the MOU between the city and the Housing Authority that was also approved by the council stipulated a holding period through the end of this year, I believe it was. So they don't have the rights to develop anything until technically January next year. I think it is. Actually, it may be the end of next year. I'd stand corrected. Yeah, I think it's the end of 2021. Now that that at least the prior school proposal hasn't gone forward, I'm an expert on what's going to happen with the middle school, one or two or none. At this point, the Housing Authority has prioritized the South Holyoke project along with the Redevelopment Authority. It's been a long-standing priority to do a change in South Holyoke. But I mean, time will happen, and a year from now, we will know where everything stands in terms of interest in that site. And so site control is the first thing to do any type of development. Because after site control, you have to start spending money on conceptual design and then actual engineering documents.
Okay, Mr. Owen, is your hand up?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Owen.
Oh, wait a minute. Yes, it is.
We can hear you.
Can I talk?
Please.
Can I address Tom and Marcos with your permission?
Go ahead.
Gentlemen, take my building off this list and I will make you proud. You will be proud that I did this, that you did it. That's all I can say.
All right.
I'm asking, even begging you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Owen. Mr. Creed, did you want to address that, or you all set?
I hear you, Mr. Owen.
Okay. Council Sullivan, your hand's up, but I assume that's from last time, correct?
No, I've got
That's a new one? Okay, Council Sullivan.
So Marcos, the 2 Bauer Street and 12 Bauer Street, that's the train station?
I believe so, yes.
So if memory serves me, weren't those acquired by Ray Street Properties from Holyoke Gas and Electric?
They were acquired. I don't know the name of the corporation, but a corporation controlled by David White, as I understand it.
And that was from HG&E, right?
Yes. Yes.
So if we add these and the city, right now, HG&E would, I believe, has a reverter clause in there. So if the person fails to perform, the property reverts back to HG&E. How does that fit with that being a target, an acquisition for the city?
I don't believe there is a reverter on the sale.
I find it hard to believe that they'd sell it with no stipulations as far as development, that they could just sit on it, but I'll look.
In defense of the person, they're not sitting on it. They've started doing work on it. So this is by no means a critique of the current owner. I've seen.
I don't take it that way at all. I've just seen an awful lot of properties where people start working on them and are financially unable to complete it.
I agree. And that's, yeah, we're on the same page. Yes.
And the other one on here, 107 Appleton Street, isn't that Sullivan Scrap Metal?
Correct. Yes.
And what I'm reading here is it's an active scrap metal business, and the proposed use is commercial non-scrap metal. So it's the city's intention to take an existing business and make it into a property where they can't conduct their business anymore?
So this falls in the category of properties where, you know, we're trying to anticipate the coming years. That site is severely constrained for additional operations. The solid waste business is actually undergoing a transformation with waste regulations. Constantly, they've, as I understand it, Solvent Scrap is increasing its business as other waste facilities are. It is entirely possible that this site is no longer useful for them in years to come because it is so constrained. It is on some level it is attractive because it's right next to rail, but it's not the only site next to rail in Western Mass. And there's no place to grow on this site. You can't grow south. It's Appleton Street. You can't go east. There's the hill, and you can't grow north. That's the rail line. So this happens all the time in every industry. It's not necessarily whether the business will fail or not. It's the problems of success. And one of those problems is you need to grow to scale. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to have a second campus. Sometimes it just makes sense once you're expanding to do it all together on one better site. And so this is anticipating that may be one of the things that happens. And so the question that we ask ourselves is, in what position do we want to be, understanding that for a very long time this has been used to scrap metals that have had other elements on them, you know, whether it's lead or whatever. I mean, I would fully expect that it's not an entirely clean site. Do we want to be in a position to start putting together resources, state and otherwise, to clean this up, or at least cap it, or do something else productive with it? So that's, again, in the realm of we're putting it out there because we're trying to anticipate the needs in the community.
Okay, and we've had a response from, and not just for everybody on the committees and for the public in general. Although my last name's Sullivan, I'm in no way even distantly related to anyone in the business. So, but has anybody reached out to them for? I know you put out some notices and sent out some stuff, but specifically, this is a long-standing, active, employs quite a few people business. Have we made direct contact or heard any input at all from them?
I can guarantee you we've sent them at the very least the 2 notices. John, I'm not sure if you were able to give them a call or not. I'm seeing no. So I haven't had a conversation with them. But again, this is not a facility that would be affordable for us to take in any way. It is a business that makes significant amount of money. It isn't something that would be affordable for us to relocate. The only way that it would make sense is if the business, through an expansion, found it in its own interest, frankly, to find better pastures. You know, it's not a site to
Then why do we include it on the list?
Our explanation is we're trying to anticipate the needs that the community will have. This isn't necessarily a plan for each individual business. This is a plan for the community needs in our redevelopment. So we don't want to be in a situation where the community is stuck with a white elephant, which this could be, and that's why it's in the list. But again, I mean, we understand that reasonable people can disagree. You may understand that whatever risk or potential harm outweighs the criteria for adding it. And so this is why we're here. This is why we do the public hearings, right? And the HR can take that feedback and consider amending the plan if that's the case.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. I don't see anyone else with their hands up. Does anybody in the committee want to? I heard what Councilor Thomas said. He need a little more time. What's the committee's pleasure at this point? Councilor Tallman?
Mr. Chairman?
I just like, oh, somebody, go ahead. Is that?
Councilor Graney?
Yeah, I think, well, there's a lot of us on the council who are really undecided on some of these properties. There's a lot of property owners who really need to be contacted to find out what their feelings are. You know, eminent domain can be crushing to any business. And, you know, there's also a common courtesy, I think, that we need to use to make sure that we approach the people who own these existing businesses, that they have plenty of input and plenty of recognition as to the progress that the city wants to make on some of these sites and what's in it for them. I know anticipation is wonderful, but a lot of times anticipation doesn't come to fruition and is not concrete. So I don't know. I think we just need more input, and I think that we need to keep this discussion open. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I don't know if it's appropriate. I liked more time too, and I don't know if it's appropriate possibly to continue the hearing. I know you already continued it from the last meeting, but I'd like to get to talk to some of the business owners and maybe some of the people on the Redevelopment Authority in the next week or two to try to get some more input. And I'd like to contact Marcos just to get an idea of, just to get up to date on things. So I would like to see this continued, and I'd like to see this possibly tabled to our next DGNR meeting.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why I get the big money. So I'll take Mr. Owen. Now, time out for sports. Not Mr. Owen. No, that's about five. You've got 5 times. This is not a free for all for you. So,
I want to see my phone number.
Mr. Owen, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I mean, normally you get 1 or 2 bites of the apple. I think you've had 5. So we're gonna end it right there.
It was a good apple, I think.
It usually is. So we always serve the best.
Good apple.
So that's why, if you'll notice, I'll take a motion. Peter, take number 9 off the table, please.
Motion to take number 9 off the table for discussion.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made second, take number 9 off the table. On discussion, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Scheduling of the next DGR meeting. So let's see here. We have, I mean, just because my favorite day is Monday doesn't mean it has to be your favorite day, but you've got the 26th of October, you've got November 2nd. Those aren't bad days. City Council is only going to meet, let's see, tomorrow and the 20th. We cannot meet on Election Day because of those reasons that we're all familiar with. So, what would the committee feel about meeting on November 2nd?
I can make it for November 2nd. That's the day before the I believe it's
That's
the
the
day
day for
before
the
the
big
election.
one.
Yeah, so I can make it.
Council Graney,
Yeah, that's fine.
Council Sullivan,
I'm fine.
and Councilor LeBron Martinez is AWOL. So why don't we vote to take, so our next meeting, I've heard that made and seconded to have November 2nd at 6:30 be our next meeting. Okay, on that motion, all in favor? Aye. Okay, okay, so back to regular order here. So we had I think what I heard is that we want to get a little more discussion. What I'm also hearing is that in the, I'm not going to tell the department head what his staff should or should not do, but what I'm hearing is that perhaps some of the property owners that have ongoing businesses, maybe they've received some correspondence, but it would be nice if maybe staff could follow up with a phone call and maybe we could get some feedback. I certainly would want you to follow up with Mr. Owen, Mr. White, and Mrs. Whiting, and certainly Charlie Davignon. Charlie's such a well-known guy. I'm kind of surprised we haven't heard from Charlie on this. Maybe there's some others. I'm glad we're trying to get ahead of with Sullivan Scrap, but that'd probably be helpful to hear from them directly. I don't know about KMD Corporation, but that's young Danny Knapp, and he's in Florida. But if we need to get contact information for young Danny, I'm sure somebody could help out with that. I think the HRA chairman could help out with that. Mr. Sikowitz, I got to be frank. I'm not inclined to. If you got a 30-second comment, I'm ready to hear it. Is it going to be more than 30 seconds, Mr. Sikowitz? You got to mute yourself, sir. Mr. Sikowitz, if you would do me so kindness to take your mute button off. Still on.
Yeah. I've been sitting through this meeting, and I'm Edward's, one of his tenants. I know you guys were saying stuff about businesses. I just wanted to point out that I've been sitting through the whole meeting.
Yeah, I didn't have your hand. I didn't see your hand raised once.
Well,
and
yeah,
so,
just
I'm ready to wrap it up.
out.
But, so fire away.
Oh no, that was just what I was saying. Is you were talking about getting input from other businesses and contacting other businesses, just right there. And I thought would point out that I'm one of the businesses that operates in one of the buildings you're planning on.
Yeah. So I can't tell the department head what to do or what not to do, but I would hope that the department head would reach out to Mr. Sikowitz and to other property owners. And
I'm sure a lot of other business owners, especially if their building's on the list, would definitely like to be informed. And I guess I'm fortunate enough that I have Mr. Owen as my landlord, because he reached out to me, and it's of great concern to me that, my building that I'm in could be eminent domain and I could be out on the street. You know what I mean? So who knows? And especially considering what my business is, it's really difficult to find a workable location for my business to operate. So it's definitely a good thing to know in advance. That way I can figure out what I'm going to do.
Thank you, Mr. Sikowitz. I appreciate that.
Just wanted to say, yeah.
No, I appreciate it. And I know the committee does too. So thank you for that. And
yeah, thank you guys for taking a second. I know it's the end of the meeting. So
just for your edification, you feel free to reach out to Mr. Murrow or Mr. Dijak, because they're both conscientious employees, and I'm sure they'd like to hear from you as well. So, so I'm going to ask some of the business owners to perhaps take the initiative and reach out to them, and then all business owners can reach out to any counselor at any time, because all our emails and phone numbers are public on the city website. So you can feel free to reach out to any of us as well and bring us your concerns. And then just so my friends on the HRA board, I think this is 2 meetings in a row where we're hearing from private property owners that they're looking for a carve out. And I'm not getting the feeling that your last meeting you were so inclined to carve anybody out. So Marcos, is the HRA going to meet between now and November 2nd? Is there a meeting scheduled?
They have a regular meeting every month, the 3rd Wednesday. So by normal scheduling this, the board was also ready to schedule a non-regular meeting should the calendar require it. So,
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would just hope to my friends on the HRA board, this is 2 meetings in a row where we're kind of hearing the, a refrain at this point. So, you know, I would ask you to, you know, humbly ask you to maybe come back with, some direct input. Okay, Counselor Tallman, do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, make a motion to continue the public hearing and to table this item.
The motion is made to table this to continue the public hearing to a date certain, which is November 2nd at 6:30. Under discussion, hearing none on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, thank you everybody for that. And appreciate your time. Let's go to number.
Mr. Chairman, can I close my meeting for the HRA, please?
Of course,
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, please.
Sorry about that. Just entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. I'll take a quick roll call. Mr. Willoughby, yes. Mr. Creed,
Yes.
Mrs. Duffy,
Yes, thank you for hosting us.
Mr. Eager.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank all of you.
Adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Guys,
Thank you,
very much.
counselors.
Have a good night.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so moving over here. Okay, look at that.
I'll make a motion to take item number 3 off the table for discussion.
Motion made a second to remove item number 3 off the table and open up the public hearing. On the motion and discussion, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing, special permit application of the Board of Trustees of the Holyoke Community Charter School for 2 storage units at 2200 Northampton Street. And with us, we have Mr. Tom Paquin. And let's just hold the phone a second, Mr. Paquin. So let's see what we have here. 2 storage units behind the school to store furniture and desks due to COVID-19 distancing procedures. Applicant Thomas G. Paquin. It's also signed by an owner or legal counsel. I think we're all familiar with this. The property is tax exempt. Oh, let's see here. All right, Mr. Paquin, fire away, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And thank you, fellow councilors, for allowing me to address the board. As you know, for your longtime Hoyokers, with the old Mammoth Mart Plaza down behind McDonald's on Route 5 at 2200 Northampton Street. And we're in the same predicament as every other school building. When we do our 6-foot social distancing, I'm stuck with hundreds of children's desks, chairs and everything, and no place to put them. So I'm looking for 2 storage units to be able to store all this extra furniture until this whole COVID-19 is over with and we can go back to normal. They'd be put behind the school. There's nothing behind the school but some woods. It's abuts the railroad tracks and Main Street, not visible from Route 5 at all. For tenants abutting us, we got McDonald's and Gillette restaurant equipment, and other than that, there's nobody else abutting our property. That's about it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Council Graney?
Yeah, Mr. Paquin, these are temporary storage units, are they not?
They are.
Could you give me approximate size?
They're 40-foot long by 10 feet wide. They're steel containers, and I purchased the paint, and I intend to paint them the color of the school so they blend in.
And as soon as the COVID restrictions are lifted, they will be removed, correct?
Yes.
Thank
Well,
you.
I was looking for maybe a 4 or 5 year permit. I can work this back in as we go.
Okay, those are all good points. Tom, thank you. Any other counselors want to weigh in on this? I don't see anybody's hand up. Let's see, we are in a public here. Let me just ask you, any department heads here want to speak on this? No department heads, to my knowledge. Is anyone from the public want to speak pro or con regarding this matter? Well, apparently Mr. Owen does. Mr. Owen, Mr. Owen, do you live in Holyoke?
No, but I have property in Holyoke, and I just want to tell Mr. Pequin, he's always been very nice to me and fair with me, and I have space. If he needs some space, I'll give it to him. That's all.
Well, look at that. How about that? Thank you, Mr. Owen. Yes, this is.
You're welcome.
Can save some money.
Gonna have you move to Holyoke and maybe run for office. That would be that'd be an honor to serve with you. Okay, let's see here. I don't see any member of the public wanting to say anything on this point. Mr. Paquin, you're all set. Before we close the public hearing, what I heard you say is that we want to have these two steel containers here on a temporary basis. You're looking for a 5-year permit, and you said you're going to paint them so they're in harmony with the school building, and they're going to be out of sight from the public. Did I hear you say that, Mr. Paquin?
All that is correct, yes.
Okay. All right. So if we put all those as conditions on the permit, you would be you wouldn't find them objectionable, would you?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So I'll take a motion to close the. Ms. Paquin, is there anything else you need to add?
No, that's it. Thank you.
You know, I shouldn't do that. You know, I hate it when I do this. Let's just, as a committee, let's just sort this out, and then let's close the public hearing, because well, we can do it any way we want. So
We didn't hear from.
So if we I'll take a motion to allow the public, to allow the special permit with the aforesaid conditions, including that there'd be a 5-year permit, that they be kept out of public view, and that they be properly maintained, including have an appropriate painting that's in harmony with the colors of the school.
I'll second that.
Okay. A motion's made. So that motion's made and held right there. Mr. Paquin, does that motion make sense to you?
That's perfectly right with me. Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to take a motion right now to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and second to close the public hearing. Under discussion. Hearing none on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the public hearing is closed. Before us, we have a motion to grant the special permit. Under discussion, we have before us, the permit's going to be, 5-year permit. It's going to, the storage, it's for the 2 storage units, 5-year permit. It's the storage units are going to be out of public view, and they're going to be maintained so that the colors are in harmony with the colors of the school. Is there anything else anybody wants to add? No? Okay. Council Tallman.
Yeah, not to add, I go along with everything there, but there's just that phone number down below on the right, 9625. If Ryan could mute that, it seems like there's noise coming out of that, disturbing the meeting. Okay, you just did it.
Okay, yeah, Pete, I can't even see it.
Yeah, I've been hearing it. He just muted it. That's good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Linda Bacon here.
Wow. Councilor Bacon, I don't see you, but I hear you.
I know I've been multitasking, so I'm on only by phone, but I only wanted to chime in support of this special permit tonight.
Okay, well, we thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so sorry about that. Okay, so we've got a pending motion. It's under discussion. Okay, I think we've got all the conditions of the permit. Mr. Allen, I'm sure, is taking copious notes, and he'll post those tomorrow in their updated agenda. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, motion carries 4-0. Mr. Paquin, this will be recommended for tomorrow's city council meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, councilors.
Thank you. Okay, let's see what's going on. Oh, look at this. We've got another one here. Okay, so we'll green light that one. And let's see, I'll take a motion
Motion?
to take 4 off the table
Motion to
and
take
open
item
the
number
public hearing.
4 off the table and open up the public hearing for
Motion's
Mr.
made and seconded
Eric
to,
Taub.
to take number 4 off the table and open up the public hearing and discussion. Hearing none on the motion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Special permit application of Eric Taub for construction of a new duplex at 102 Beach Street. And let's see what we have here. Special permit for dimensional variation for lot area and frontage. Current size lot 3850 by 6,000. Current frontage 35 by 60. House used to exist in lot and was demolished a few years ago. 3 other houses on the same block have similar lot area and frontage characteristics. Okay, so we've got a little variance on Beach Street. Mr. Taub, where are you, sir?
There he is. How you doing, Eric?
There he is. Okay, Mr. Taub. Okay, so why don't you orient us a little bit and tell us what's happening with your proposal, please?
Sure. We bought this lot 4 or 5 years ago from a city auction, and there used to be a house on it several years ago, and at some point it got demolished. So I've just had an empty lot sitting that's been getting a lot of trash from neighbors. I've been thinking about what we could do. And so I think it would be smart to just build a duplex here. So it's actually, there's less blight in the street. I can actually, if we share my computer, I can show you how do you call this?
The area?
Sorry?
The map?
Yeah, the map of the area. And I can also show you a layout of what I'm thinking of doing.
Yeah, why not?
That'd be great.
Let's see if I can do this. I'm not really good with Zoom, but I'll try. Let's see.
You got any questions? Ask McGivern. I'll tell you, he's our expert. He's our go-to.
Share the screen.
Right, you gotta make him a co-host.
See what I mean?
Co-host, there you go.
Just made him a
Co-host him.
Can you see my computer now?
No?
No, we see you.
Yeah.
There we go.
Now we got something.
Coming up.
Okay.
All right.
Here we go.
Here we got it.
The highlighted lot is our lot. It's 35 by 110, I believe. And so if you look over here at Beach and Dwight Street, there are 3 other duplexes that already exist. My idea is actually to make something a little smaller but nicer. So let me see if I can actually pull up. Can you actually see my screen right now or not?
Yes, we can.
Yes, so
great.
this is
Yeah.
kind of what we're planning on doing. There was a house that was built recently in Holyoke, 2 blocks away with this drawing. You know, 30, what's the dimension? It's 30 by 39. And it's kind of, you know, everything is aligned with, you know, I don't know. I also found in the records of the city, you can see over here, there used to be a house right there.
Mm-hmm.
So mine is just gonna be, obviously it's gonna follow the 10 feet setback. It's just, I need a variance to be able to build here. So that's what I'm looking for today.
Yeah, just explain the variance part, because I want to, so what is it that we're,
So I actually took, let me find I lost it already because I've been doing some other stuff. Right here, oh, actually, I have
so
it.
is it the setback or the frontage?
So this is the minimum lot size. I need at least 6,000 square feet, and I believe I have around 3,500 square feet.
Okay.
The setback is fine. I can put 10 feet. The maximum density is fine. The minimum frontage is 60 feet. I have 35 feet. And the maximum height, I would have around 30 feet, so I should be fine. So this is for a DR zoning. DR district.
Yeah, what about parking, Mr. Taub? How's that gonna work?
So parking would be in the back of the house.
Okay, so it's off-street parking.
Yes, correct. So it wouldn't really impact Beach Street in any way.
Okay, what if we conditioned it on off-street parking? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can fit easily 3 parking spots. And I think that would be acceptable by code too, by building code.
Okay, so I'm gonna make that motion when the time comes that we condition it on off-street parking. Mandating off-street parking for up to 2 spots.
Where's the, okay.
All right. All right. Did you want to show us a picture of what you're proposing to do, or do you have that?
There is a new house that was built. You can actually look it up. I grabbed the floor plan from that. I really liked it. Let's see, where is it? What's the address? Let me see, 1 second. I can probably Google map it. Oops. It says over here. 220, no, that's the drawer. No, I don't have the drawer. Well, I'll find it later, if not, or with a new house built on going down the hill from Stop and Shop. See if I can find it real quick. Sorry. Where is this thing? So hard to miss. Sorry, 1 second, I'll find it in 2 seconds. Which is the street going down?
The one up above Hampden Street, coming down towards Linden?
Yeah, I think you're right. Up here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I'm a little lost. Yeah, here, right? There's a new house, right? 2 duplexes that were built right here.
Right.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we're very familiar with those.
So those are the floor plans that we're using to build.
Okay, and who's gonna be your builder?
So I have a general contractor license, so I'll be pulling the permits, and then I'll have some subcontractors for the framing, the foundation, the plumbing, the electrical work.
Okay. All right, Eric. Is there anything that you want to add?
No, I mean, that's pretty much it. I think if you guys have any questions.
Yeah, why don't you let go of the screen and get us back to regular Zooming.
Got it. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry, but I'm not very.
Committee members have questions for the applicant? Non-committee members have questions for the applicant? Does the public have questions for the applicant or me? Is there any member of the public here who wants to speak for or against? Are there any department heads that want to speak on this matter? Okay. All right. The only thing I could see, Mr. Todd, from my perspective, is I'd want to. I mean, parking just so limited there. I'd want to see if we can have off-street parking, but I'm just one person, so I mean, I don't live down there, but I know it's a tight area, and I know we've got other orders before us relative. You know, right around the corner, there's an order in committee right now relative to taking away parking across from one of the local establishments, and this is something that we had before us once prior, and now we got it before us again. But we'll cross that bridge at the time. Okay. All right. I don't think Council Tallman, I'm sorry. I can see your hand. Sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, Eric, thanks for coming down and thanks for investing again more in the city. You're talking about you're going to have some parking in the back?
Yeah.
On the property.
Correct. Well, ideally, since we have 35 feet, we can probably, I think each car needs 9 feet by 18 feet. So
Right.
ideally, we can at least fit 3 cars, maybe 4. And I think the code actually forces me to have 3 and 1 street parking minimum for a 2-family.
Right.
So I would have to do those codes to make it.
Right. The building you plan, so it's basically the same dimensions as the ones on Hampden Street.
Correct.
So they'll be left and right facing the building off of Beach Street.
Correct. Facing
Now,
Beach. Correct.
Is there a building? Is it vacant next door beyond your building? Or that
None of
lot?
the 2 buildings next door are vacant. No, they're occupied.
Oh, they are occupied. Okay, so you still have to go through the variance though to get the distance. or
No,
not?
I don't. There's no, if I can show you again in my computer, but there is no requirements on setbacks on the sides.
Okay, well, you said in the beginning about the feet.
That's
Square
only
foot.
the minimum setback from the front.
Okay, but the square feet of the of the lot.
The lot size, that's 6,000. I have around 3,500. Yes.
So is 6,000 the minimum?
Yes.
And you only have 3,500?
Correct. That's why I'm here.
Like
Oh,
it
okay,
goes-
so that's why you're going for the permit to have that fit into that.
Correct.
lot
There's
size.
other 3 properties in the same, like in the corner, like I showed you, that have
Right.
the same amount of square footage as my property, and they have 2 duplexes, you know? They have duplexes there as well built.
So will there be much like yard or anything? No, not much of a front yard?
So we'll have 10 feet in the front, and
Okay,
the back will have, we have 110 minus, so 110 minus 10 minus 40 for the property. We have 60 feet in the back. That's big.
okay. Okay, I was just trying to picture it. I understand. So that's the reason, because you don't have the size, the minimum requirement for the size. That's why you're here for the permit.
Yeah, so we have the size and we have the frontage issue.
Oh, okay. I'm all set, Chairman.
Thank you, Pete. Council Sullivan.
Yeah, hi, Eric. How are they gonna, if they're parking in the rear, how are they gonna get the cars back there? How are they gonna?
There is access to the alley from both sides of the street. So let me open up the name of the street. So one from either Dwight Street or
Hamden?
what's the name of the other one? Or Hamden?
Hamden.
Or Hamden, yeah. You can access the alley from either side.
Okay, so the access, there won't be any driveway, there won't be any parking in the front.
Not through the front, no, because then we would have to do a curb cut, and I don't want to get into all those headaches either.
Just wanted to make sure you're aware of that, because that
Yeah.
could be a real issue for you.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Eric, what's our timeline?
Ideally, if this goes well, I don't know what's the next step, if I need to do any other step, but then if it goes well, I'll submit a permit to the city. It usually takes like a week or 2, and then we can actually start the foundation and all the excavation. So ideally, I could put the foundation before the winter and then start building. I already have a carpenter ready to start work and all that stuff. So it'd be fairly quick, I would think.
Okay, so, you know, I guess from my perspective, I guess I wouldn't want to, I guess I would want to have this permit really just be for the current owner. And so it wouldn't, so if we gave you this permit, I don't want you turning around selling it.
No.
So that's going to be a condition I'm going to recommend. Okay. So it's only going to run with the current owner. And then a third condition I could consider proposing is to put a commencement within 2 years of 2 years of this date. Is that reasonable?
That's reasonable. We can do that. I mean, I want to develop this, but obviously I think it would be just smart for anybody to go in and develop it. But obviously anybody would come in with a different footprint than myself. But that's reasonable. I'm still planning on doing it, so that's fine.
Well, right. So, right. I get it. So that's why I'm going to put the proposed conditions. Well, I guess that's just like I said, I'm just one person, but I'm gonna propose those 3 conditions on here, and let's see what the committee has to say or not say. Okay. I think I ran through the garden of anybody who wants to speak or not speak. I don't think anybody. Council Tallman has his hand up, but I think that's from last time. So
I'm all set. Yeah.
Council Tallman is all set.
I'm all set.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Graney,
Yeah, I want to second your conditions. I think that they're very smart conditions. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate that. So those my 3 conditions were the off-street parking, 2 spots, that the permit's going to only run with the current owner, Mr. Taub. Am I pronouncing that right, Eric? Taub?
Yeah.
Thank you. If I'm screwing it up, tell me.
Yeah, you're fine.
Nope. All right. Well, okay. All right. Condition run with Mr. Taub, and that the project must commence within 2 years of the granting of the permit, which would be, I guess, hypothetically tomorrow. Okay. Those would be 3 conditions to special permit. Motion has been and seconded. Under discussion. Councilors, discussion? Hearing none on the motion to grant those conditions to this permit. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, so those 3 permits are on there. I'll take a motion right now to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the
So
public
moved.
hearing.
Motion made to close the public hearing. Under discussion? Hearing none. On the motion to close the public hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is closed. I'll take a motion to recommend to the city council that we grant the special permit application with the aforesaid conditions.
Moved, we
Motion.
grant the special position, with the, existing conditions.
A motion made and seconded to grant the special permit with the aforesaid conditions. Just to recap, the parking, the current owner shall have it and no other, and it commenced within 2 years. Under discussion? Hearing none. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Mr. Taub, so what we've done is we've approved the recommendation to the city council. You've seen us act, you've been as many times, so I just want to make it clear so we're not confused. So what we do is, as subcommittees, we just recommend to the full body. And so you heard 4 members of the body, that 4 of the 5 members make up of this committee make that recommendation, but we can only recommend, as you know. So what we'll do is at tomorrow night's meeting, it's not a public hearing. There is public comment, of course, but I don't see this being terribly controversial. Joe, what word is that?
4
It's Ward 4.
or 1.
It is 4. Okay, I get. Okay, I don't see the word for counselor here, so I'm assuming that the counselor is good to go with that. So, but you might, Eric, as a courtesy, I would. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but you may want to reach out to the Ward 4 counselor if you've not already done so, just as a courtesy.
And do I have to be present tomorrow? How does that work? Or
Negative. You do not have to be present. Okay. Okay, so that
you're all set. You got everything. You need
We do.
to send you any of this information, or you don't need.
we
any
are good to go. We closed the public hearing, so we can't even take any more information. But I just want to give you a little feedback. Okay. All right. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric.
All right. Let's find my agenda. That'd be helpful.
Motion to take up item number 5 off the table for discussion.
Second.
Motion made and second to take agenda item 5 off the table for discussion. It'd be nice if there's my agenda. Let's take up
5 and 6.
well, 5, what the heck? Okay. Yeah, 5 and 6. So we could just amend that motion, suspend the rules, take 5 and 6 as a package.
Suspend the rules, 5 and 6 as a package.
On the motion's made and seconded to take agenda items 5 and 6 off the table as a package. On discussion, hearing none. On the motion to remove from the table, all in favor? Aye. Agenda 5 and 6 are filed under my name by the OPED director. Let's see. City Council declare Cabot Street parcel declared a surplus property available for disposition. And number 6, that the City Council declared 136 Cabot Street as surplus property available for disposition. We had this before us on September 3rd. Councilor Sullivan raised some legitimate questions. I have had those questions sufficiently answered in my mind. But Councilor Sullivan, is there anything else you want to add to this?
No, all my questions there have been answered also, and when an actual RFP goes out, we can address those problems. So I'm all set right now to put them up.
Yeah, Marcos, did you want to add anything else?
No, I'm here as a resource for you. So if you have,
You are a resource. Let us all toast to that. Here's my UMass mug, and I'll toast to that with a coffee. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
now I feel like I should have brought a mug.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm very proud of this. You should see I wish I could turn my camera around. My little altar to UMass over here on top of my refrigerator. It's I say to people, I couldn't even get accepted there this day. Somehow I graduated. I to this day I'm amazed. Okay, so I think we're good to go with this. I don't see any ladies here, so gentlemen. Peter, this was a good. We had a good we had a good robust discussion on this one last time, but I certainly got some good feedback, and I had some good photos shown to me by by a well-known property developer in Holyoke, and so I'm excited about it, and I'm excited about the energy and enthusiasm that he's bringing to the table on this. Should he be the bidder, the winning bidder, and so it's just and Peter, you're intimately familiar with this location at basically High and Cabot. You're
right? Yes, I am.
Yeah, I know you're very familiar with this.
Yeah.
Okay, it would be exciting to get some to get that up and running as well. Really exciting. Okay, I'll take a motion to approve these being surplused.
Motion to approve both these items 5 and 6 to be surplus properties.
Motion made and seconded to approve items 5 and 6. On discussion, hearing none on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so those are good to go. All right, thank you, Marcos.
Thank you.
Agenda item 7.
Item number 7 off the table for discussion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to remove agenda item number 7 from discussion. On the motion, all in favor? Aye. Oh, this is Councilor Murphy. Order that the DGR committee meet with the mayor, the director of Women's Shelter Compañeros, to discuss if the current domestic violence leave policy effectively provides for the needs of abused employees. Mr. Allen, he indicated to me that he has somebody from Women's Shelter going to call in. Is that person here? Oh, look at this. On cue, we have Miss Carmen Nieves. Carmen, would you, and you're unmuted.
I am unmuted. I've been here for a couple hours, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Carmen, isn't city government exciting?
Very.
Oh.
Especially if it's done by all of you. Absolutely.
Amen.
There you go. That's it. Now, see that big difference? Yeah, he thinks he runs a great show in finance, but I'll tell you, I
love DGR.
We have a good time, Dave.
Who is that? Who is that guy we had, Pete? Who's that guy we had over the summer? What?
Yeah, I can't think of his name.
He
was
great. He couldn't get enough of this.
Yeah, he loved it.
And he's coming back for more. Loved it so
back.
much.
Yeah.
Councilor Murphy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Carmen, for being able to attend. Again, when I first got back on last year in 2019, I did some research, and I had filed an order just in terms of domestic violence, and I've met with Carmen and people at the Women's Shelter Compañeros, and I saw the policy, and I actually brought it up to the mayor's attention, and he kind of thought, you're probably right, we need to take a look at it. And I was kind of hoping he or somebody might be here, or personnel director might be here to answer some questions. But as I read it, and again, I could be wrong, but as I read it, one of my concerns was that it potentially creates a situation where finances might play a role in someone being abused, not moving forward. For example, if somebody does not have vacation time, but did have sick time, there's a procedure, but I'm not sure exactly what that procedure is and how someone can take their sick time rather than take an unpaid leave. But I'll just, if I can, I'm just going to read what it does say, and I'll just ask questions after that. So this is actually the duration of leave. If an employee or a covered family member of the employee is a victim of abusive behavior, he or she may take up to 15 days of unpaid leave in any 12-month period. And one of my questions there would be, so what happens if they're still having problems and now we're beyond 15 days? Do they become unemployed? It doesn't really explain that. Unless otherwise specified in a collective bargaining agreement, employees are required to use personal or vacation leave before taking unpaid leave under the domestic violence leave policy. Accrued sick leave may be applied if it's medically documented. And again, I was hoping to be able to ask exactly what that means. My concern is if in fact we have someone that's a city employee that's in a domestic violence situation, we should be doing everything we can to make sure that they affirmatively move to get out of that situation. And our personnel policy my hope would be that we would try to make sure that we are doing all we can. And I'm not sure, as I first read it, I'm not sure we are doing that. But I also spoke with Carmen, and I know she had some concerns about if that person needs to go to court and how that's handled. And I'll leave that to Carmen to be able to explain it. But again, my concern are, I don't want someone in a domestic violence situation having anything to consider that might deter them from taking action. And if in fact they can't take sick leave or they don't have vacation leave and they know that they're going to be financially in trouble, if that does in fact create that kind of an environment. So those are my concerns. Again, I was hoping the mayor or the personnel director would see it on the agenda and be encouraged to offer their thoughts and comments, or if they're listening, to touch base and come into it. But that's what I've tried to do. I'm just trying to see if this policy is as fair and as positive for someone experiencing domestic violence.
Okay, so before we hear from Ms. Davis, Ryan, you're here? Ryan?
Yeah, Dave.
Okay, just verify whether or not you reached out to the mayor's office and any other department head referenced by Council Murphy, please.
Yeah, I sent an email to the mayor and Mike Bloomberg, but I don't think I recall hearing back from them.
Okay, Council Murphy. So I just want to make sure you heard that. Okay, and the committee
Yeah,
heard
I
that.
hear that. I'm
okay,
very
so
discouraged.
Council Murphy, you have the floor. Council Murphy.
No, I'm all set. I mean, I would like to hear from Carmen Nieves, and she's the expert in terms of what may or may not have impact. And again, my hope is that after we hear from her, and we may not be able to make any suggestions without getting input from the mayor or the human resource director.
So Carmen, I'm going to give you the floor. Why don't you just give us an ever so brief overview of you? You know, how long you've been at Women's Shelter, that sort of thing. Maybe a touch about your background, and then why don't you just then dive right into Councilor Murphy's order and questions that you have with it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So I am the executive director of Women's Shelter Compañeras. I've been with the agency for over 25 years and the executive director for the past 2 years, almost 2 years. And my role here tonight is just to advocate for all of your employees, men and women that are suffering from intimate partner violence or domestic violence. And this is nothing new. You have a great human resource department in the city, and I'm here mostly as a consultant, like I would be for any employer. So what I'm asking is that you take a look at, you already have harassment policies, you already have workplace violence prevention policies in place. What I'm asking is if the city of Holyoke can do something more than just what's done by the state or done federally, just to take a look at domestic violence protocols for your employees. And that would start with a conversation with your human resources mostly.
Okay, so Carmen, what would you yeah, why don't you just go a little bit deeper than that, if you would. So when you say a conversation with the HR director, what is it your
right? So we would be looking for, as we always do, training, right, on the issue of domestic violence for your city employees. I'm sorry, for supervisors and your human resource on the issue of domestic violence. We recommending to look at those policies that go to the economic piece. So it is very well documented that victims of domestic violence succeed when they're able to financially leave, when they're able to keep their job, when they're able to safely leave an abusive situation. And what's important for you all to remember is that this abuse is happening probably during work hours. As an employer, you have employees that are being harassed and abused during work hours. And so that's mostly the dive in that I want to do on this level. I would hope that I could have a conversation with your human resource department.
Okay, how do we make that happen?
I don't know, sir.
If I can, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Murphy.
I mean, I would again hope that after we have whatever discussion we're going to have, that we would take this order up again and both invite the mayor, but also the human resource director in to discuss, exactly what happens. And again, what Carmen just talked about, if someone does not have vacation time or personnel time, and they ended up in a situation, and Carmen, you're much more expert on this, but I'm going to assume there's a lot of times it doesn't get resolved in 2 or 3 weeks. And, as I read this, I see the person after 15 days of unpaid leave, what happens to that person as an employee? So, I mean, and if that's the case, that clearly puts that person in a very difficult decision where, yes, I'm being abused, but if I do this, then what do I do? And obviously, I know Women's Shelter Compañeros is in all of it, what that it tries to do, tries to provide some expertise and some support, but still, I want us to be in a situation as a employer that we are protecting and encouraging our employees to protect themselves from a domestic violence situation. So that would be, I mean, those are legitimate questions. What happens if we have a person that gets 15 unpaid leave? Are they no longer an employee? I mean, I don't see anything. Maybe I'm just not reading it right, but I don't see anything in there that says what happens after that. Also, I don't see exactly how they get to take sick leave. And I don't see anything in there for things like if they have to go to court to proceed with a legal proceeding, how that is involved, and if we could provide some kind of protection that they can go and be covered under city collective bargaining or otherwise. And some of this is collective bargaining, I know. But, I mean, I would hope that the city would have a uniform domestic violence policy for every city employee.
Mr. Chairman?
Hold on, Councilor Graney. Councilor Tom is recognized first.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Carmen, for coming down and discussing this with us. I think it's a very important issue. And Terry, thanks for bringing this up. When I was with the Postal Service, we had an EAP program, and I'm sure we still have one in City Hall, an employee assistance program, which can be helpful too to employees to try to get that extra help or resource outside of work if they're going through issues with either abuse or some kind of sexual harassment things going on at work. But I think a meeting is important to have with the mayor or his chief of staff with the HR director to try to make sure that the employees are protected, especially as far as leave time or sick time. And of course, with people today with work, they want to keep their jobs. So it's important that they're working in a safe environment, and that it's important that we get the resources that they need, and that in their contracts that there is provisions for them to be able to seek help if it's needed. So I think the discussion should be ongoing, and we need some other people at the table here to get this issue out there in the public, because I'm sure it happens in almost every workplace, and we have to take care of our employees.
Thank you, Peter.
Carmen, did you want to? Carmen, do you want to speak? Or are you okay?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Graney.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, why don't we recommend that the City Council send a formal letter to the Human Resource Director to contact Carmen immediately to discuss this situation?
Well, I think that's a great idea. What we could do is, if we want to report this out, we could report this and refer it with that the HR director get in touch with Carmen immediately, and that also Carmen, you have. I know. I say that. I just said it earlier in the meeting, and but Carmen, you're more a veteran than the other people that had it that were in the public hearing. That you certainly know how it's a two-way street. I mean, you of all people would know that in the position you're in. It's a two-way street. For the general public, I know how intimidated they get, even talking to dummies like me. So sometimes they just don't feel comfortable, and I get it because they're just not used to talking to elected officials anybody in government, but you of all people would feel comfortable. I would certainly imagine. So Carmen, I guess what I heard Councilor Grandy say is that he wants to report this out and refer it report as complied with, but refer it to the HR director to get in touch with you within 30 days. But it'd be my expectation that if that did not materialize, that you would circle back at least to the maker of the order, Councilor Murphy. But all of our emails and phone numbers are on the city website, and I would hope that you would not feel shy about reaching out to us. Hey, we had this meeting on December 5th, and is reported back to City Council October 5th, and it was reported to City Council October 6th, and here we are, November XYZ, and I haven't heard a thing. Geez, that would be disappointing, especially in light of where we have employees that have said things to city councilors here in open meetings, Carmen, for which an apology was expected and never offered. Can you imagine? But that's happened on our public meetings, and every counselor sitting in this Zoom meeting knows darn well about whom I'm speaking. But notice I don't mention names, Carmen, because in city council we have a rule where we're not supposed to mention names, although sometimes that rule gets trampled on, as it did at the last meeting. But generally in this committee we adhere to the rules. So I didn't mention any names, but every counselor in this meeting knows exactly what happened and who made the comment and to whom it was made, and they know darn well an apology was never made. But Carmen, these things happen, and that's how the mop flops. But I would hope that you wouldn't be that bashful, okay? Carmen, you have the floor. Go ahead.
All right. No, absolutely. I will reach out. It is October Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And yes. So
Councilor Murphy, did you know that?
I did know that, but I filed the order before that, but I didn't know it.
Yeah.
So it's my honor to bring it here. But and I also have to say that the city of Holyoke has great people in the supervisory positions that are helping these families and these survivors as they try to work. Again, my hope is just to be able to be a consultant for them and to be able to guide them so that you can all be proud in a year from now, next year, and see what you have in place for survivors of domestic violence as your employees. And that's what my hope. And thank you, Councilman Murphy, for letting me bring that to Holyoke. Our agency has been here 40 years. We're celebrating this year that Women's Shelter Compañeras has been in existence in Holyoke. So thank you for allowing us to be able to help this way.
Well, Carmen, I feel like there's going to be a late filed order filed by every member here that we give a proclamation to Women's Shelter Compañeros on its 40th anniversary. Would everybody like to join with on a late file for tomorrow?
Absolutely.
I'm in.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Go.
They do great work.
What a guy. What a guy. Well, we'll draw that up, and I see Councilor Vacan on here somewhere. Councilor Murphy is recognized. Sorry.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. And I would not have a problem doing what Councilor Granny wants, but I would like it to have some specific deadline and to report back on any recommended changes to the city council no later than our November 17th meeting. I've seen too many times where we've asked for things and it just goes on, and you ask for a particular, whatever it is, and we don't get that report. And I do think, and I want to make sure, some of the questions that I want to make sure get answered. Number one, if a person has to use 16 unpaid leave days, what happens with that employee's employment status? Again, I don't see where that's answered there. And I also would like to get a very clear definition of how they use sick leave for everybody in the city in this kind of situation. So those would be two questions. And I do want them to work with Carmen because obviously she's aware of all of the various types of situations much more so than I, and I appreciate working with her and her staff. They are dedicated to creating a safer environment for people to be able to have a quality life. And I just want to make sure the city is doing that with our employees.
Council Sullivan?
Mr. Chair?
Hold
Mr.
on,
Chairman?
Howie. Council Sullivan?
Yeah, Carmen, as long as we have you here, could you tell me, since this COVID epidemic, has there been an uptick in domestic violence problems?
Yes, Councilman. So for us in Holyoke, we have our hotline has increased 27% from the same time last year, from April until June. We have had to increase our staffing, our hotline staffing for it. The biggest increase that we've seen is our shelter is still operating. Our shelter never closed during the pandemic. We were one of the few shelters in the state, recognized by the governor's office of us being able to do that, to be able to stay open. Our staff is considered essential workers, so we're still providing all the services. Our office is located on Ray Street. We are doing very limited, so it's a skeletal crew, room remote, but we're not seeing the public as much as we did. Last year, we saw 400 people come through our doors on Ray Street, and we've seen since April only 7. So there has been an increase. We're doing virtual support groups. We are doing sessions online, and but our hotline and our housing needs have been huge. So our shelter, 33 beds, has been full, and I just signed a contract with someone. I'm always afraid of where we are, and this is a public meeting. So I've signed a contract with someone to be able to keep some people in hotels. I've moved them out of there, and I'm trying to, as things are opening up, we're able to put people on planes now, bus tickets, and all of that to be able to support them and to move them to safer places. So yes, to answer your question, we've been very busy.
And are you getting additional emergency funding through any of these?
So we had gotten it about 15% through the state, but that stopped at the end of June. Department of Public Health, and here, the state is in the same financial picture, so we are our fingers crossed about our funding.
So somebody else's phone is interfering here.
Yeah,
It's one of the ones on the
Ryan,
right.
I don't know why I have to say this out loud, but can you mute everybody?
If I mute this person, I won't be able to unmute them again. So can we just figure out who they are, and then maybe we can see? This might be somebody. I don't know who this is.
Okay, who? Okay,
0625?
which one is it, Ryan?
0625, I think.
Yeah, they just stopped.
0625. Who are you?
They're still on.
Still talking.
Ryan, you want? Can we just hang up on them?
Yeah, I can delete them.
Yeah, go ahead. Delete them. Carmen, go ahead.
Okay, so I just hope that answers the question. Our funding, we're pretty nervous now with the state. We're hoping through the Department of Public Health that we'll be able to get some of that funding back.
And have any of our special employees, emergency management, COVID people at City Hall reached out or done anything to supply any support?
I mean, absolutely. I'll tell you, I don't know how much, very quickly. When this happened in March, an unintended consequence that happened throughout the state is that we had families in hotels because we were very nervous about what was going on, and there was such an overflow. So the state came in and closed all of the hotels because they needed them for the essential workers. So I had about 14 to 15 families that I was just in tears scrambling about, that I didn't have anywhere to put them because the hotels were taken. And City Hall, the mayor's office, they were fantastic at helping me and helping me relocate people. And I'll never forget that. They were very, very helpful that first 2 weeks in March.
Okay, that's very good to hear. And anyone in particular we should give a shout out to?
I think is Rory. I mean, is it? I'm trying to think. I'm blanking out with his name. I've been up since 6:30 in meetings. So there's Sarah and from the office and also Rory. Casey, is it Casey or
Casey? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, very helpful.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Carmen.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, it's Linda.
Linda, hold on a second. Councilor Grandy's recognized.
Yeah, I just wanted to address Councilor Murphy's comments that as soon as possible, this should be done, you know, even to the second October meeting of the city council. You know, I think we should get the ball rolling right away to make sure that the human resource director gets in contact with Carmen, or they can touch base. Thank you.
Councilor Bacon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted through you to thank Carmen for keeping the shelter open, because back in the early days, there was so much fear that a lot of people did run for cover. And so I think it's really great that certain people did stand up and keep the services going and learned how to do it safely. And I think it's a credit to the community. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I guess we'll take a motion to it's complied with, but that we want to refer it to human resources to get to make sure that there's feedback between oh God, what's the date of the calendar here? The 6th and 20th. Well, how do you want to do this, Terry? Do you want feedback when? 30 days, 2 weeks, a week? What do you want?
Well, if we can do 2 weeks, I'd prefer 2 weeks, but my gut is it'll probably, I would definitely by November 17th. But and I do want to address those specific concerns. How does what happens when they're on unpaid leave goes beyond 15 days? What happens to that employee? How do they take advantage of their sick time? And I know Carmen's talked to me about court, and I'm sure she'll bring it up with Hector as well. How do we arrange it so that someone that needs to go to court can have the time to do that without being penalized as an employee?
Okay, so those are the three things that we want to get as part of the motion. So we want to get those answered at a minimum for Council Murphy, Ryan. So we want to get the question of the unpaid leave for up to 15 days. What happens after that? Can sick time be used? We want to understand that, and we want to understand if somebody has to go to court, that we want to understand whether or not they're charged for time, or if I imagine it's personal time, but I really don't know. And then there might be another carve out relative to union agreements. So those are kind of the four areas, Ryan, that if you'd put that on the revised jacket for tomorrow, that would be great. Okay, anything else, Carmen, on a recap? Are you good to go?
I'm good to go, sir. Thank you.
Okay, councilors, all set?
Thanks, Carmen.
Okay, I'll take a motion that's complied with, and that we send that correspondence to the HR director.
So move to it. This item's been complied with, and we move the information to the HR director.
Motion made and seconded. On discussion, hearing none. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, and then let's see. The last item here. It was my understanding that that David Kozolik, VP of Business Development, was going to come in, but he decided that he couldn't make it tonight. So that's going to stay on the table. Number 9, we already took care of, because that's November 2nd, 6:30. Did somebody raise their hand? Councilman, I'm sorry, Councilman McGivern. I got you. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but can I speak to number 8?
Sure. Motion to take number 8 off the table.
Off the table for discussion. Go ahead.
Motion made and seconded to take number 8 off the table. On the motion under discussion, hearing none. On the motion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion that order the DGR committee invite David Kozolik, VP of Business Development, to discuss Mount St. Vincent Eye Care Health Network. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the members of the committee. I'll be as brief as possible. I realize that he's chosen not to come in tonight, and I don't have any questions about eye care health and what they are as a healthcare provider. However, the proposal of eye care health is before DPH. Last week there was a public hearing, which I learned about only 2 weeks ago, when some family members of parents who are at Mount Marie reached out to a few of us to tell us what this proposal is about. The more I've learned about the proposal, the more concerned I've been. And I was hoping tonight that some of our questions could be answered, and if I could just briefly outline some of the issues. I think
Joe,
most,
Mount St. Vincent's, not Mount Marie.
did I say Mount? Thank you, Councilor Graney. Mount St. Vincent. I think most of us know Mount St. Vincent is one of those jewels, one of those nursing homes that provides care for elders. They're a very much needed service, especially in the city of Holyoke, but in all communities. It's a regional type nursing home. It's been well known for many years. iCare is proposing to close a facility in Turner's Falls known as the Farron Care Center. Now, the Farron Care Center is a different type of a nursing home. It houses and caters towards psychiatric issues, BHN issues, and does a very good job from what I understand for the Franklin community and for the Greenfield area community itself. You can imagine that the intense type of patient in Farron Healthcare is, and we do have some of those type facilities within Holyoke, and they are well run too. One on Southampton Road that many people are not even aware of. Unfortunately, Providence Hospital has closed their psych ward, or proposing to close it. Bay State next door, the Geriatric Authority, is on and off the table. I'm not too sure if that project is going forward. And iCare is proposing when they buy out Mount St. Vincent, this sale has to be approved by DPH, that they're going to move the patients from Farron Care when they close that into Mount St. Vincent. Now they're telling us, or they're telling DPH, that there would be coexistence of the patients who are there now and the patients that they are moving in. But that I know is a myth. That is not going to happen when you move in people that you're dealing with of the nature of the patients at Farron itself. Note, Mount St. Vincent is, abutting across the street from a school, abutting a very heavily populated residential young family neighborhood, and is something that I think we need to protect, because regardless of where it is, Mount St. Vincent services are needed. So I did speak against the sale. The comment period, unfortunately, the public hearing was October 1st. The written comment period ended on October 2nd. Now that tells you this was not a required public hearing, but it was triggered by when 10 people from the Commonwealth asked for the public hearing itself. It was a conference call, not a Zoom meeting. I know we spoke to the assistant director of DPH, and I don't know who else was on the phone call except for many people who spoke, mostly family members of people who were at there. The reason I'm asking to talk about this tonight is if we do tend to send a message as a body, it may already be too late. But if we don't, at least if we can have some public comment, I thought that we might reach out and wake up some people as to what's happening there. The schools were never, as far as I know, notified, but only recently found out what's being proposed. And I know there's some concerns from the school department and from the principal. And I know there's a lot of concerns from the family members who have their parents and other family members within the facility itself. I'm trying to keep an open mind here. I'm not trying to be very critical of iCare, but I am critical of their proposal for Mount St. Vincent. And I just wanted that to be aired publicly.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Graney?
Yeah, in addition to what Councilor McGivern has said, there's many long-term residents of Mount St. Vincent who have been there for a long time that they're going to be moving out of there. And I don't think that that's fair or that's right either. So I concur with what Councilor McGivern has said, that it's not a coexistence type of facility. And there are many senior citizens, many seniors who have been there for many, many years, and families who are being upset because they're going to have to be moved from this facility to a facility outside of Holyoke, outside of town. And I don't think it's right. So I am opposed to this sale as well. So I think that we should get the ball rolling tonight. I think Councilor McGivern is right, and I support entirely what he said. Thank you.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes, thank you. And just going along, I also agree. First of all, it's my understanding they're also not guaranteeing that the nursing staff, the medical staff there is going to be continuing. They are going to be able, as I understand it, be able to reapply. And and they are working on what they might be able to provide them. So I mean, from a patient standpoint, if I'm already there and I've had a nurse or a nursing staff that I've really become comfortable with, and now they may not be there because we're changing over, and you know, I'm always amazed, as I was amazed with the Geriatric Authority, when we've got people that are already working successfully in a facility that has a good reputation, why we are not in a position where we are hopefully having someone come in and using those same people under those same terms. Are they coming in and trying to move away from what might be a unionized contract? I don't know if it's unionized there or not, but my gut is it probably is. And again, are we sacrificing care in order to improve a bottom line? And I know obviously they got to be able to balance their books, but both from an employee perspective and from a patient perspective, right now, everything you hear does not sound that great. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Councilor Graney.
And just in addition, many of the families who have residents in Mount St. Vincent are Holyoke families. Some have moved from the Holyoke Geriatric over to Mount St. Vincent in past years, and we don't know where the residents are coming from, if they're going to be coming in from Farron or some other community somewhere else. I mean, we have an obligation to take care of Holyoke people and Holyoke residents first. That should be our priority. Thank you.
Yeah, this sounds to me almost like a larger version of what's happening at 11 Yale Street. Almost just kind of a different set of circumstances, but here it is. And then I know the only grandparent I ever know, she spent the last 8 years of her life at Mount St. Vincent. She passed away in '99. So it was a wonderful care facility. I don't know what would happen if we had them over, you know, if this was.
So did my mother-in-law.
Yeah, I mean, so it's, I know Councilor Burnell, his mom is still there. Former Councilor Burnell, his mom is, she survived COVID at 91. Pretty impressive. So, I don't know, what's your pleasure? You tell me, what would you have us do at this point? Anyone? I mean, I guess, the order is the order. The order is just to, I think all I can do is keep it on the table. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, perhaps it might be stretching a little bit that we would refer to the full City Council and ask the President to send a communication on our behalf, both to the DPH and to ICARE about our concerns. The reason I ask is because I realize he's not before us tonight, but this sale could go through at any moment now. And I think even though it's we weren't given ample time to address this, at least we can get something in writing.
Okay, does a member of the committee want to make a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I'll make that motion that we send a message to the iCare Health team, stating what Councilor McGivern stated through the President.
No, second that.
Okay, well, just on this order itself, I guess we have to.
Can we table it and possibly?
Yes,
but
that wouldn't get to the point of what Councilor McGivern wants to do. I think you've got to make a motion that's complied with. And hey, look, I mean, you know, he was offered the chance to come. You didn't come. The motion complied with, and we want to send a communication to. And somebody's got to help out Ryan in this, because it's a little bit unfair to Ryan, who's now working at another department here. And you know, I get that he's on for a special city employee tomorrow, but I mean, this is, you know, somebody's got to help out Joe with this a little bit. Okay, so Ryan, you're still with us?
I did reach out to the President. He is teaching a class tonight for his job. Otherwise, he would be with us. And I told him I would be making some type of appeal to the committee. So I can talk to him between tonight and tomorrow night. And certainly between us, I think we can word something that makes sense.
Okay, somebody work with Ryan on that. Okay, so the motion is that the order has been complied with, but the additional stipulation is that a communication will be sent to Eye Care Health Network,
And DPH.
DPH. I'd like to have a copy to the Diocese of Springfield. What a crew down there. And
They're selling everything. Closing a lot. Providence Hospital, it's going to be gone before we know it.
well, we already referenced Monte La Rosa tonight, I think, and I think there's other churches that are probably in their wake. Okay. All right. So that's the motion that it's already been complied with, and that we're going to send a communication to Eye Care and DPH, and maybe copy the Diocese of Springfield about about the concerns that are raised tonight. Is that fair? Is that a fair motion?
Fair motion. I'll second
Okay,
that.
motion made and seconded as aforesaid. On the motion discussion, hearing none. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion is unanimous. That motion carries. Okay, that's it. Just one other thing, just a point of personal privilege. Councilor McGivern, there is an order in the DGR jacket that we should have put on tonight's agenda that's more appropriate for the Finance Committee. It's relative to Jonathan Maldonado at 385 Main, and it's regarding junk, old metals, rags, that sort of thing. So it really belongs in finance. So what we're going to do tomorrow is sometime during the DGR part of the program, we will remove this with 10 votes, and we're going to ship it over to finance. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the Finance Committee be happy to help out DGR.
Okay. All right. So we'll do that, and that'll take care of that one. Ryan, I want to make sure you heard that. We'll take one more motion, and that's it.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made and second to adjourn. That's non-debatable. On the motion, all in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
See you tomorrow night.
Good
Great
night.
meeting. Great meeting, David.